Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're looking at a cricket match that got everyone talking, India versus New Zealand. And, India's been on this unbelievable home winning streak, like 18 series in a row. So, the pressure's on, right? But what really makes this match special is the story of Washington Sundar.
Yeah, what's really amazing about Sundar is that he wasn't even supposed to be playing. He was literally called up from a domestic game. It's like being pulled from the minor leagues straight into the World Series.
Like getting the call from the farm team.
Yeah.
And not just to warm the bench either. India decided to bring him in over two other spinners who were already on the team.
Right. Yeah, and that's a pretty bold move, especially when you think about it. They were facing New Zealand, who have a really strong lineup of those left-handed batsmen. So India's, the strategists over there, they obviously had a plan.
So let's break down this whole spin attack thing. For those of us who aren't, total cricket experts, can you tell us why spinners are so important? How can they dominate on certain pitches?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So imagine you're trying to hit a baseball, right? And the ball just curves in midair. That's basically what a spin bowler does. They make the ball spin as it bounces. So it's super hard for the batsman to know where it's going. Now, certain pitches, like the one in this match, are like perfect for spinners.
Well, the match was moved from Bangalore to Pune,
Yeah.
right? That kind of changed everything.
Yeah. The Poon pitch was dry and hard. It didn't have much seam, which are those little ridges that can make the ball move unpredictably after it bounces. So the ball wasn't going to deviate much off the ground, which is like a dream for a spinner. They can really get a grip on the surface and make that ball turn sharply.
So basically it was like rolling out the welcome mat for spinners like Sundar.
Exactly. And it wasn't just him either. India has this legendary spinner, Ravichandran Ashwin. He was probably pretty excited about this pitch, too.
I'm dying to hear all about Sundar's amazing debut. But first I got to ask about Ashwin. He hit a pretty big milestone in this match, right?
He did. He did. This match saw Ashwin become the fastest Indian bowler to reach 450 test wickets, which is just incredible. It really says a lot about his skill and his consistency and his experience.
So we've got this super high pressure match, a pitch that's basically made for spin bowling, and two of India's best spinners ready to go. I bet the New Zealand batsmen were a little nervous walking out onto that field.
Oh, I'm sure they were. But you got to give them credit. They started strong. They raced to 30 runs in just 7 overs, which is a pretty good pace for Test cricket.
So New Zealand's off to a flying start, putting the pressure right back on India. What happened next?
Well, this is where India's strategy really comes into play. They decided to bring Ashwin in early, hoping his experience would, disrupt New Zealand's momentum.
Did it work?
Oh, yeah. In just his 5th ball, Ashwin takes a wicket, sending one of New Zealand's opening batsmen back to the pavilion. It was just a masterful display of spin bowling. He really took advantage of the pitch.
Wow, talk about a game changer. That early wicket must have really shaken up New Zealand.
For sure. It definitely shifted the momentum. But, New Zealand is a tough team. They weren't going down without a fight. Their batsmen, Conway and Young, started building a pretty dangerous partnership.
Okay, so we've got this back and forth battle going on. What did India do to, counter this New Zealand resurgence?
This is where you really see the power of India's spin duo, Ashwin and Jadeja, another super talented spinner, bowled with incredible precision and guile. It wasn't just about taking wickets. They were choking the runs, putting immense pressure on the batsmen and forcing them into making mistakes.
And they did big mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about false shots.
Exactly. Over 11 overs, Ashwin and Jadeja forced New Zealand into 24 false shots. These are those mishits where you can just tell the batsman's struggling to read the spin and just can't connect cleanly. That kind of bowling can be really demoralizing for a batsman.
Oh, I bet. So is this where Sundar finally comes in?
Not quite yet. New Zealand's Ravindra, who was actually player of the match in their last game, came in and showed incredible composure. Despite some early scares, he managed to steady things for New Zealand, and he even reached a half-century 50 runs.
So the match is swinging back and forth like crazy. We've got Ashwin's big wicket, New Zealand's fight back, and then Ravindra's crucial innings. This is like an edge-of-your-seat thriller. Where does Sundar finally come in?
Well, as the match was heading towards tea, New Zealand's trying to rebuild their innings, India decided to unleash their secret weapon. Just 10 minutes before tea, they bring Sundar into the attack. And that is where things take a really remarkable turn.
All right, I'm hooked. You've set the stage perfectly. Let's dive into Sundar's performance in part 2 of this deep dive.
So picture this. You're a New Zealand batsman, right? You're already facing some of the best spinners in the world. And then this young guy comes in all fresh, full of energy, ready to make his mark. That was Sundar. And let me tell you, he did not disappoint.
So he comes in 10 minutes before tea. What happens next? Give us the play-by-play.
Well, at first he's just kind of finding his rhythm, getting a feel for the pitch. But then something clicks. He starts bowling with this incredible precision. The ball's dipping and turning sharply. It's like watching a magician, You just don't know what's coming next.
And that those New Zealand batsmen were thinking, who is this guy?
Exactly. And remember how we talked about those spin-friendly pitches? Well, Sundar was taking full advantage. One delivery in particular was just beautiful. The ball pitched on middle and off, turned sharply, and hit the top of off stump.
Hold on for a sec. For those of us who aren't, fluent in cricket, can you break that down? What does middle and off and all that even mean?
Sure thing. So imagine the batsman standing in front of those 3 wooden sticks, right? Those are the stumps. The off stump is the one furthest away from the batsman's body. And middle and off, that's where the ball bounces right before it reaches the batsman. So Sundar bowled it, so it landed in that middle and off zone, but then it spun away from the batsman, hit the off stump, knocked it over.
Wow, that sounds almost impossible to hit.
Pretty much. And that was just the start of Sundar's show. He went on to take out 3 more of New Zealand's key batsmen, leaving them reeling at tea time. His bowling completely shifted the game back in India's favor.
So this last-minute addition who wasn't even supposed to be playing ends up taking 4 wickets before tea. What a debut.
And it gets even better. By the end of the day, Sundar had taken a total of 7 wickets. His best bowling figures in first-class cricket. It was an incredible performance, especially considering the pressure of this match.
It's like something out of a movie. The underdog comes in and saves the day. But it wasn't just about Sundar's brilliance, was it? There was some real strategy behind India's decision to bring him in.
Oh, absolutely. Remember, they wanted to strengthen their batting without weakening their spin attack. And Sundar brought both to the table. Not only did he take those 7 wickets, he also contributed some valuable runs with the bat. He was a true all-rounder.
So India was thinking ahead, knowing that a strong batting performance might be crucial later on.
Exactly, and that's what makes Test cricket so interesting. It's not just about individual players. It's about strategy and adaptability, being able to read the game and make smart decisions.
So at the end of day 1, India's looking pretty strong thanks to Sundar's amazing performance, Ashwin's milestone, and some clever tactics. But this is just the start of a 5-day match. Plenty of time for New Zealand to make a comeback. What do you think happens next?
Well, you're right. Test matches are like marathons, not sprints. And New Zealand is known for their fighting spirit. I'm sure they did some serious strategizing overnight.
So the big question for you, the listener, is will India maintain their dominance and extend that winning streak? Or will New Zealand find a way to fight back and pull off an upset?
We'll get into the rest of this match in part 3 of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into this amazing India-New Zealand test match. We've heard about India's dominance, Sundar's dream debut, and Ashwin's record-breaking performance. But test cricket is a game of, twists and turns.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did New Zealand manage to stage a comeback?
Well, they definitely didn't make it easy for India. The rest of the match was a real nail-biter, Both teams just fighting for every run and every wicket. Like we were talking about before, New Zealand's got that fighting spirit. And they really showed it.
So walk us through those last few days. What were some of the key moments that, really decided the match?
One thing that really impressed me was how New Zealand's bowlers adapted. They realized that trying to blast out India's batsmen on that spin-friendly pitch wasn't going to work. So they changed their strategy. They focused on accuracy and patience, trying to build pressure and force those mistakes.
That sounds like a pretty smart move, especially against a team like India with such a strong batting lineup.
Yeah, it was. And it almost worked. They managed to keep India's scoring rate down, which kept them in the game. There were some really tense moments where it looked like New Zealand might actually pull off an upset.
I bet the fans were going crazy.
Oh, yeah. The crowd was on the edge of their seats the whole time, cheering every run, groaning with every wicket. It was just classic test cricket, a real battle of skill and strategy and nerves.
So in the end, who came out on top? Did India manage to hold on to their winning streak?
They did.
Yeah.
India won the match. But it was a close one. New Zealand really pushed them to the limit. It just goes to show why they're one of the top teams in the world.
What does this win mean for India? They extended their home winning streak.
Yeah.
But what about the bigger picture?
Well, it definitely solidifies India's position as, a dominant force in Test cricket, especially on home soil. But I think more importantly, it shows their depth and their adaptability, even when they had to deal with, unexpected challenges, like bringing in a last-minute replacement, they were able to come together as a team and find a way to win.
It's amazing how one player can have such a huge impact on a match. Washington Sundar's story is a real testament to, seizing the moment and making the most of an opportunity.
Absolutely, and it reminds us that in cricket, just like in life, you got to be prepared for anything. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones you least expect.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What can we learn from this incredible match?
I think the biggest lesson here is adaptability. Whether you're facing a tough pitch or a challenging situation in life, being able to adjust your strategy, think on your feet, and trust your team can make all the difference.
And never underestimate a good spin bowler.
That's for sure. But beyond the technical stuff, I think this match really shows the beauty of Test cricket. It's a game of patience and strategy and resilience, a true test of character and skill.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought.
Yeah.
Imagine you're facing a challenge that seems impossible. What would be your Washington Sundar moment? What bold move would you make to change the game?
It's something to think about,
Yeah.
because sometimes the most unexpected choices lead to the most amazing results.
That's all for our deep dive into this thrilling test match. Oh, until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep an eye out for those unexpected heroes.